What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a vinyl haul showcasing all of the records that I acquired within the month of January this year in 2025. Needless to say, we kicked off the new year on a rather high note because we have some Christmas VCLT from my buddies over at the Youngest Members of the VC, an out-of-print Rush live album, a colored Kiss variant, a Vinyl Me Please exclusive from the Ramones, an unofficial pressing of Gene Simmons' other solo album, not the 1978 one, as well as the latest offering by Yes from Analog Productions, and so much more. It's about to go deep, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest finds. Okay, we are kicking off the new year on a high note with some fantastic finds, starting out with a couple of pieces that I picked up over at a local record store called On the Record, which is based in the Woodbury, Deptford area of New Jersey, my home state. And there's a little bit of a funny story behind the first record I'll share with you guys and how I managed to get it at this shop. So, if you remember this past Christmas/holiday season, I went sort of viral with that home video clip of my 5-year-old self receiving a vinyl copy of Kiss's Rock and Roll Over for Christmas back from 2002. Blew up between Instagram and Facebook, and I also shared it to X and TikTok. On the Record, saw it on TikTok, gave it a like, left such a warming comment, and I knew that they were a local store close to me. I just hadn't made the trip out there to check it out. So Abby and I made it a point to visit the shop, spend some Christmas cash, and sure enough, I saw this record, brought it up to the counter. I was talking to the owners, husband and wife couple, very nice people. And I asked, like, who runs the social media? And the guy said, oh, my wife usually does it. And I was like, did you see that TikTok of that kid receiving his Kiss record for Christmas? She's like, oh my God, that was so wholesome. Wait, is that you? And sure enough, you put two and two together. But here's the ironic part. This is the record I left with. The exact album that I was geeking out over when I was 5 years old for Christmas. So I did indeed buy another copy of Rock and Roll Over. Now, what pressing is this? I did buy it sealed, but I opened it just because I enjoy my stuff and I like to look at it and play it. It is the orange vinyl pressing, and this came out kind of when Universal decided to do these sort of anniversary pressings. This was before it became a Kiss Online only thing. I think this was being sold on sites like You Discover Music, The Sound of Vinyl, like some of those like Universal affiliate websites. And I was really kind of debating on it because I had another record in my hand and I'm like, I already have, X amount of copies of Rock and Roll Over. And then, Abby looks at me and goes, are you really going to leave the store with Kiss not in your hand? And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. So I went ahead and got myself a nice little upgrade with this orange vinyl copy of Rock and Roll Over. And I also saw this record, and this is actually out of print. And I've been kind of on the hunt for this on and off for a number of years. Technically, I already have this in some form. I'll explain why, but it's still very, very cool to own. And that is Rush Moving Pictures Live 2011. So this is basically Rush playing Moving Pictures Live in its entirety from the Time Machine tour, recorded live in Cleveland. And that show was released on DVD. There was also a live album that was put out, and they did a big 4 LP package for that live album some time ago. And I do have that in my collection, so I technically already have this. But just to have the Moving Pictures album itself by it, alone, is well worth it because Moving Pictures was like the first Rush album that I got into when I was such a young kid, and it's kind of what made me a Rush fan. And also, I have a lot of fun memories with this Time Machine tour because it was the first tour that I had seen of Rush, and I saw that tour 4 times. Traveled all around Jersey and Pennsylvania to catch a number of shows on that tour. So I have a lot of fondness for hearing this album live from this tour. So I was very happy to get my hands on that. And you can kind of tell they kind of spoofed a little bit on like the film strip reel with the live band shots. And they even somewhat replicated the original printed inner sleeve. You have the individual band photos. You have the lyrics laid out. Standard black vinyl. but it does have some cool kind of color alternating center labels there, which is really cool. And yeah, like I said, this only came out on vinyl back in, when did this come out? This was in 2011, because obviously you can get the full show on CD and everywhere else. So I was very happy to get my hands on this. And then here is a record that I got from Vinyl Me Please for free. So I recently wrapped up my Vinyl Me Please membership. But there was a month's worth of credits that I just applied to my account, and I would just use it for whatever would come back in stock or if something caught my eye. And just before Thanksgiving, they were running a huge, massive sale on their website where you could get stuff for almost like half off, it seemed like, or maybe more than that, depending on the title. And I was like, damn. And I remember there was this one album that they had released as part of their rock track before they frickin' took it out of their whole tier system, which is ridiculous. And I was thinking about it, and technically I already had this album in a box set, but the variant looks cool. But I also found out on Discogs that this is a unique cut that's not in the box set. So this is a unique pressing in its own right. And that is the Vinyl Me Please exclusive of Ramones' Too Tough to Die. This was sort of their comeback album from like 1984. Mama's Boy's on here. The title track is great. Warthog, Endless Vacation, Howling at the Moon. This album is just a great brooding piece of 1980s punk. And as always with Vinyl Me Please, they do a fantastic job with the packaging on their releases. It comes with the sort of Obi type strip, which opens up like this. Here you have some blue inlays right here. And then, of course, you get the listening notes penned by one of their writers. So you kind of flip through it, read some public opinions as you listen to the album. Then as for the vinyl, it is on that classic Sire label. And it kind of comes on this blue splatter vinyl. It really kicks in when you see it at a certain light. I don't know if you can really catch it. It almost looks like a... I can't even describe it. You can kind of see it like... Yeah, there we go. If I shine it in this angle, you can somewhat make it out. It's almost like a phantom clear with that blue splatter. It makes like a cool eclipse kind of look. Instead, it has a cool kind of marbled effect on this angle. But believe me, if you have it at the... Yeah, there you go. Something like that. It's a shame that I have to do the funky angle so you guys can see it. But when I saw that it was a unique cut and it had enough going for it as a unique variant to have, I figured, you know what? I might as well get myself a nice standalone copy of the Ramones' Too Tough to Die. And then moving on to some Christmas VCLT from my good friends, the Stone Kings. So if you remember, back in the tail end of 2023, I made my way out to California, hung out with the Stone Kings. They provided their hospitality, which I am eternally grateful for. We saw Kiss for 2 nights. We saw Guns N' Roses. We checked out the Sunset Strip. We checked out a bunch of record stores. I did a whole video on those travels, and anytime I watch it or look at old footage or photos from that trip, I just reminisce and go down a rabbit hole because I miss those guys, and they made California an absolute blast. And the funny thing is, this Christmas gift was supposed to be sent last Christmas, not this past one, the one before that, Christmas 2023, but they just never didn't get around to mailing it out. So better late than never. So they sent me a couple of records as well as a cool t-shirt. Starting off with the first record that I have of this particular band, and you guys are all gonna, your jaws are gonna drop when you realize who it is. Alice in Chains, Barrowland, Glasgow, March 2nd, 1993. I don't have any Alice in Chains in my collection. I've been saying for a long time that I need to get into them. I just need to buy the records outright. Look, I know the hits off the radio. I just need to do the deep dive. And very boisterous for me to not have any Alice in Chains, but yet to have this sort of legal bootleg type release. And on this you have Damn That River, Them Bones, Rooster, Junkhead, Sick Man, Bleed the Freak. I'm really stoked to dig into this. I was telling them how much I really wanted to dig deeper into Alice in Chains. But also, it's fitting for TJ and Morgan Stone King to gift me this because obviously, vocalist of Alice in Chains is Lane Stanley, and their little 2-year-old son is named after Lane. So very fitting of them to send this my way, which I am really stoked to check out for myself. And then TJ was really stoked to give me this record here. This is Collective Soul, Disciplined Breakdown. You know what's kind of funny? I kind of grew up listening to a little bit of Collective Soul when I was a kid. My parents sort of had a 90s alternative phase where they were listening to these guys, as well as bands like Live and Bush. But this particular album, I don't think I am too familiar with, to be quite honest with you, but I'm really excited to kind of give it a blind listen. And TJ said that it pairs well with a little something. So I'm going to pair it when I listen to this. Catch my drift. And comes pressed on translucent red vinyl. This was a Record Store Day Black Friday release, I want to say. So I'm really stoked to check this out for myself. So thank you very much, Morgan and TJ. But that is not it. They also sent me a t-shirt from Rhino Records in Montclair, California. And Rhino, out of all the shops I checked out in California, I think Rhino was my favorite store. So now I can rep my favorite store out in the West Coast. And yes, that beats Amoeba. Okay, now it is time for some Christmas VCLT from my good buddies over at the youngest members of the VC. That, of course, consisting of myself, Marican at Marican's Music, Emma at 8 Vinyl Low, and Jenna over at Spins and Needles. And every year during Christmas and the holidays, we always gift each other some records. And once everything arrives in the mail, we always set aside some time to set up a Zoom call and open them with each other. And it's always a fantastic time. And I have a nice little stack here I'm going to show you guys. First one is from Marican and Jared, and they gifted me a copy of the new Wallows album, which is called Model. Emma was really hyping this up. I have not heard much of it. I have one of their records already in my collection, actually 2 of their records, and I enjoyed what I've heard in terms of their recent stuff, but I've been a little bit out of the loop with the new stuff. So this will be a prime record to kind of dig into since this did come out the previous year. And this is also an Amazon exclusive, which does have a cool fold-out poster, which is very nice. Nice little printed inner sleeve, which is pretty sweet. And this pressing is on white vinyl with sunset labels, which is absolutely awesome. So thank you very much, Marican and Jared. And this one is from Emma, and of course, if you know her, she's the queen of all things power pop. And I had seen this record in passing. I had heard of it. Obviously, I'm aware of the homage that the title is of this record, but she really sold it to me very, very hard, and I gave it a couple of sample listens real quick, and I was like, oh yes, I will love this. And that is Velvet Crush, Teenage Symphonies to God. Obviously, the title is a homage to Brian Wilson's Beach Boys Smile record. Just a great brewing piece of mid-1990s power pop, and I am so stoked to have this in the collection. It is just great, gritty power pop. That's all I can say, really, and I cannot wait to give this album a firm spin. So thank you very much, Emma. Then moving on to Jenna at Spins and Needles, and when it comes to her 2 big areas are Grateful Dead and Zappa. And needless to say, my collection of both of those respective artists is a little weak. And I just say that because there is so much to dig into, and I'm still beefing up those parts of my record collection. And when in doubt, I can rely on Jenna to hook me up. Starting off with Grateful Dead, From the Mars Hotel. This came out back in 1974, so this recently got a 50th anniversary reissue this past year. So she gifted me this, as well as a Frank Zappa and the Mothers album that I have been wanting for ages, and that is We're Only in It for the Money. Of course, as you see here, the cover kind of parodies Sgt. Pepper a little bit, even including the opening here with that yellow background gatefold. And really stoked to give all of these records a respective listen. And once again, thank you so much, Marican, Jared, Emma, and Jenna as well. Absolutely love these records, and I love you guys. Okay, so I know I've mentioned wall-to-wall sound and video before. Abby and I checked them out upon like their first couple of days of opening, but recently they just did a big sort of grand opening event where they were doing a bunch of giveaways. They had some live bands play, and needless to say, because I'm a record nut and also she's getting into collecting movies and TV shows, we made it a point to check it out on the big opening day and score some cool finds. And I picked up a couple of things I'm going to show you. Starting off with a sort of legal bootleg type release. This was pretty interesting to see. This is Nirvana live at Hollywood Underground Club in Seattle on December 28th, 1988. Definitely derivative of the sort of Bleach era of the band. Includes tracks like School, their cover of Love Buzz, Floyd the Barber, Mexican Seafood, Paper Cuts. If you are a fan of that early period of Nirvana, this is an absolutely solid show to have, and it just looked interesting enough to include in the collection. I love the artwork of it. That's kind of what sold me on it, and something cool to kind of beef up the Nirvana collection. And then I found this for just a little over 20 bucks. For brand new sealed, I thought that was a pretty solid price. For George Harrison's 33 1/3. The main reason why I really wanted to check out this album for a little while at this point is for the song, this song, which when I was doing my music business studies with Berklee College of Music, they actually made reference to that particular song, since it goes on about, you know, things involving copyright and suing for melodies, lyrics, etc. It was kind of interesting, but it poised me to want to check out the full album. So sure enough, finally picked up a copy. Nice gatefold sleeve, and of course has that Dark Horse label right there. And rest assured, this will be the first of many times that you'll see me showcasing some finds from wall-to-wall sound and video. Okay, so here is the latest offering from the unofficial gods, as I like to call them. This album first came out back in the early 2000s, only came out on CD, never got a vinyl pressing, albeit officially or unofficially. But here it is on vinyl for the first time. And with the exception of his 1978 solo album, this is the only other solo album this guy has done. What am I talking about exactly? Of course, I am talking about the demon himself, Gene Simmons, and this is his album, Asshole. This album has quite a bit of variety on it. It does have some rockers on here, such as Sweet and Dirty Love, Weapons of Mass Destruction, Carnival of Souls, which was actually demoed during these sessions for Psycho Circus. How about that? Carnival of Souls and Psycho Circus kind of right next to each other. Then he does a cover of The Prodigy's Firestarter, which is kind of an odd choice, but, you know, given that Gene breathes fire, I guess it kind of makes sense for him to do it. But then you have some great, wonderful melodic tracks on here, such as Waiting for the Morning Light, which he co-wrote with Bob Dylan. Beautiful, Now That You're Gone. To be honest with you, if you have the Gene Simmons Vault box set, you can really see how a lot of these songs came to life and hear them in various embryonic forms from when they were first written around 90s, 2000s, or even going as far back as the 70s, such as Sweet and Dirty Love. I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm glad that there is a vinyl pressing in general for this album, because if you are a Kiss completist like myself, it's something that you gotta have. And there he is, of course, pimped out with all kinds of ladies on the cover. Here's the back, and there's all kinds of goodies in here. We have a printed inner sleeve. There's Gene with some guy liner there. There he is on the back, and there's even the inclusion of this poster. To be honest with you, I'm not quite sure where it comes from. It's kind of an interesting inclusion. And then as for the vinyl, it is pressed on silver vinyl, which looks really cool. Some cool custom center labels here. Overall, really happy to see this Gene album get a vinyl pressing, and not gonna lie, I do have a bit of a soft spot for it, so I really can't wait to revisit it again on vinyl for the first time. Okay, so the last record I'm going to show you guys is a little mystery package that I got from Acoustic Sounds, and every now and then I'll look in my email and I'll see a mysterious invoice for an order that I had never placed. But of course, it's thanks to Chad Kasem and the fine folks over at Acoustic Sounds and Analog Productions that they still send me stuff to review on trackingangle.com. So if you're watching this video when it goes live, chances are either the review is done or is about to be done. So keep your eyes peeled for it. But the record in question that they had sent me this time around was, yes, Fragile. And yes, this is the 2LP 45 RPM Atlantic 75 mastered from the original master tape cut. I have seen nothing but amazing things said about this particular pressing, and I'm sure that when I listen to it, it's going to live up to the hype that I have heard about it. I am so stoked for this, and also I'm very thankful for them to send me this. I think Chad and company have narrowed my taste down well to know what I will love and appreciate to review. And needless to say, Yes is one of those bands I grew up listening to thanks to my parents. They're big time proggers, and they carried that down onto me. So, and this is a fantastic Yes record, by the way. I mean, this is part of that, you know, that sort of classic run from the early 70s. You have Roundabout, Long Distance Runaround, Heart of the Sunrise, South Side of the Sky, as well as each member kind of doing their own sort of pieces interspersed throughout the record. I'm really stoked to listen to this. Funny enough, I did have a Kevin Gray cut that was done around the mid-2000s, which I parted ways with because I got the Super Deluxe Edition, which has CD, Blu-ray, and vinyl all in one package. So I'm going to be curious to see how this compares to that. But I'm sure this is going to take the cake. I just know it. Obviously, as always, Analog Productions did a fantastic job replicating the Roger Dean artwork. This was the first time that a Roger Dean cover was used on a Yes album. Gatefold here. What I like too is that, like, you have like a nice sort of standard kind of finish to the front of the cover. Then you have like this sort of matte paper type finish for the inner gatefold. And yes, if you own the original, you know what came with it. And yes, they replicated it. The original booklet that came with the album, full of band photos. Some copies, I think it came pasted inside the gatefold, but I think it's cool that they made it like its own standalone thing, just so it doesn't get torn or anything from the gatefold. And showcase the vinyl real quick. Of course, rice paper inner sleeve. Come on, let's take this bad boy out. And of course, you have that iconic red and green Atlantic label. And just by looking in the dead wax, interesting. This is another Kevin Gray cut. So Kevin Gray has done both 33 and 45 cuts. It's a shame I got rid of that 33 cut if I knew he was going to be doing this one, because the Atlantic 75 stuff usually tends to use various different mastering engineers, whether it's Kevin or Ryan K. Smith over at Sterling Sound. You know, it's kind of a hodgepodge depending on the release, but nonetheless, I'm sure this is going to be an absolute delight to listen to. And once again, thank you to Chad and everyone over at Acoustic Sounds and Analog Productions. So there you guys go. That is my vinyl haul of all the records that I acquired within the month of January this year in 2025. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.